You're standing in a group of friends and someone tells a story. You watch their hands while they tell it. You notice the quiet one at the back hasn't laughed at any of the jokes the others are laughing at. You notice the person telling the story is checking their phone too often, like they're waiting for a text that hasn't come. 5 minutes in, you already know 2 things about that room nobody else has registered. Nobody told you to look. You just did, the way you've always done. If you've spent your whole life noticing things other people walk past, the small shifts in tone, the half smiles that don't reach the eyes, the way a room's energy changes when one specific person walks in, your psychology is doing something very particular. And it's almost certainly not what you've been told it is. The people who see what others don't are not overthinking, not paranoid, not too much. They are running a perception system that catches a higher resolution of the world than the people standing right next to them. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Most people walk through their day at a perceptual baseline. They register what's directly in front of them, what's loud, what's labelled as important. They don't notice the cashier's slightly too flat smile, the way 2 co-workers stopped talking when they walked in, the small change in their partner's voice between yesterday and today. The signal exists. They just don't have the bandwidth open to catch it. But some people don't have that filter. Theirs is wider, faster, more sensitive across the board. You walk into a room and absorb 20 separate pieces of information in the first 3 seconds. The slightly off seating arrangement, the fact that one person's drink hasn't been touched, the framed photo that's been moved since last time. You don't try to do this. You can't really stop doing it. The volume on everything is just turned slightly higher, and it has been since you were small. In the 1990s, psychologist Elaine Aron began publishing research on what she called sensory processing sensitivity, the trait underlying what most people now call being highly sensitive. Aron's research found that roughly 15 to 20% of the population has a nervous system that processes incoming information more deeply than average. More sensory input registers. More subtle distinctions get noticed. Separately, in the early 2000s, social psychologists Nalini Ambadi and Robert Rosenthal published work on what they called thin slice judgments, the ability of certain people to read accurate information about a relationship or an emotional state from extremely brief exposures, sometimes as short as 2 seconds. The accuracy of these snap perceptions when measured was startling. The thin slicers weren't guessing, they were processing microsignals. The slower perception people in the same room weren't picking up at all. Recent neuroscience has connected these patterns to the same underlying mechanism. Your perception isn't a separate skill, it's how the whole system is wired, and it doesn't switch off when the room is calm. Picture this, you're at a small dinner party. 6 people around a table. The conversation is easy, the food is fine, nobody's being weird. To everyone else in the room, this is a pleasant evening with friends. To you, in the first 10 minutes, this is already a layered map. You've clocked that the couple at the end of the table is having a fight neither of them has named, because she's laughing slightly too brightly at his jokes, and he's not laughing at hers at all. You've noticed that there's a new piece of art on the wall that wasn't there before. You've registered the shift in your friend across the table when his ex's name came up, even though he kept talking and nobody else noticed. Nobody asked you to do any of this. Nobody is grateful for it. The other 5 people are eating, laughing, drinking wine, perfectly contented. You're doing the same thing. You just happen to be doing it while running an additional 6 channels of information that everyone else has the privilege of not seeing. But here's where it gets interesting. The pattern recognition isn't optional, and it isn't just about threat. People who notice tension in a room also notice beauty in a room. You catch the way late afternoon light falls across a table. You hear the chord change in a song nobody else seems to register. You notice the small kindness happening 2 tables over at the cafe. The same nervous system that catches the partner having a bad day signal catches the light on the wall signal. The cost is the load. The gift is the texture. But there's more going on than just perception. People who see what others don't tend to build unusually accurate predictive models of the people in their lives. You can tell when a friend is about to cancel plans before they cancel. You can tell when a project at work is going to get killed before the announcement. You can tell when a relationship is fraying before either person involved has admitted it. This isn't intuition in any mystical sense. It's pattern recognition over time. Your brain has been quietly building a model of how the people around you behave. And here's the kicker. This is the reason you've always felt slightly tired in groups. You aren't drained by people, you're drained by the data load. Every conversation is processing the surface content, plus the body language, plus the tonal subtext, plus the room's emotional weather all at once. Other people are only processing the surface. They walk out of dinner feeling refreshed. You walk out feeling like you ran a small marathon, because in your nervous system, you did. And this shows up in ways you might not even notice. People who see what others don't tend to make excellent diagnosticians in whatever field they end up in. Doctors who catch the symptom nobody else catches. Designers who notice the detail that makes the whole composition work. Friends who can name the actual problem someone is having when that person is still describing the symptom. The ability to see the meaningful signal inside the noise is one of the highest value cognitive abilities a person can carry into adult life, and most of you have been doing it for free since you were a child. Now let's be honest, the trait has a real cost. Running at high resolution all the time is exhausting, and the world is not built to slow down for you. People will sometimes find your accuracy uncomfortable, because nobody enjoys being read. The same perception that makes you good at noticing the truth can, untrained, slide into hypervigilance, into reading threats that aren't there, into exhausting yourself on data the situation didn't actually require. The work isn't to perceive less. The work is to learn when to set the bandwidth down. But for the people who learn to carry this trait without burning themselves out, here's what you actually have. You have a perception system that operates at a resolution most adults will never access. You see what the room is doing while it's still doing it. You catch the meaningful signal before the situation has organized itself into something everyone else can see. You notice beauty in the texture of an ordinary afternoon because the same wide aperture catches that too. You have, quietly, one of the most underrated cognitive gifts a person can carry. The world is full of people moving fast through their days, registering only the labeled and the loud. You aren't one of them. And the trait that has cost you energy your whole life is also the trait that has made every relationship you've maintained more attentive, every job you've held sharper, every quiet moment you've sat through richer than the moment the average person walked through right beside you. There's something quietly remarkable about people who see what others don't. They walk through ordinary days, catching small evidence of what's actually happening around them, in a world that often rewards moving too quickly to notice. They are the ones who remember the detail nobody else clocked. They are the ones who say, 3 weeks later, you know what I noticed at dinner that night. And they're right about a thing nobody else even saw. If you've spent your life vaguely apologizing for the things you see, vaguely wondering if you're imagining it, vaguely worried that paying this much attention makes you weird, this might be the moment to consider that what you have is not a problem. It's a way of being awake in a world that mostly isn't. You're not overthinking, you're not paranoid, you're not too much. You're someone whose perception system runs at a wider resolution than the people around you. And that resolution is one of the most quietly valuable things a person can carry. If you nodded through any part of this, subscribe to Silent Awareness. There's a lot more about the quietly different ways your mind works, and most of it nobody's named yet. Subscribing helps the channel keep making these, and it lets you know when the next one is ready.